Welcome to the channel's book club. If you're a parent with very young children, here's a useful advice. Make it top priority to help them discover their talents early in life. You just never know how far those talents can take them. We've got some very talented and interesting children authors for you in today's episode. But first, let's enjoy an interview with a septuagenarian woman who has plenty of passion for nurturing young writers and who is an accomplished writer herself. Mrs. Mobolaji Adenubi is founder of Splendid Literature and Culture Foundation, a former president of the Women Writers Association of Nigeria, former vice president of the Association of Nigerian Authors, and the author of many fascinating books, including Tales from Times Before and Splendid, which won the Okigbo Prize for Literature. The book is a touching story of a mother nursing her child who suffered from several serious health issues. Mrs. Adenubi bared her mind on many interesting issues concerning herself and her works. Please join us after this break.
When you are writing, you are in a different world altogether. A writer is a creator. You make a world that is not this world here. You actually make your own characters. You kill them if you want to kill them. You get some born. You change them. You make them do things you want them to do. And readers, if you are a good writer, readers will go along with you.
From one nation to another, there must be a meeting point. Their ideas may be different, but they must work to agree on what's best for the people. Diplomatic Channel untangles the discussions to bring out what's really important. Because it is our world, and it's our right to know how their decisions affect it.
My father encouraged us, his children, to write. He used to give us essays to write. And he made sure that when we described anything, a marketplace, my father, the eagle, he got an eagle for us, so you studied the eagle and you were able to describe it exactly. He made sure that whatever we wrote, anybody reading it, without seeing the title, would know what you're writing about, which meant you have to describe very clearly. So he taught us all of that. And when we went to boarding school, he gave us writing pads and envelopes to write to him every week. So writing was, like expected of us. The first work that was accepted from me as a writer was accepted by the BBC in 1965. I was in England at the time, actually Wales at the time, and they paid me 5.5 guineas, was a lot of money. It was called Strange Encounter. I returned home in 66, got a job, got married, and career and marriage just made it difficult for me to settle down into writing. But I continued to write. And in 1990, I decided I wanted to follow up writing full-time. So I resigned my appointment as a civil servant. I was an assistant director of education. And my father didn't want me to resign. My husband also didn't encourage me. But I left all the same. And I've been writing ever since. It was not difficult, because I did it chronologically. I put all the information I had for each year on my daughter's bed. She was away at the time. I arranged everything from 1976 on to when he died in 86. And just wrote it chapter by chapter, one year at a time. It was fun. And I had no difficulty, but it was after I finished the book that I realized that I was writing about my late son, and I broke down and cried. But I didn't cry all the time I was writing. People who read the book said, oh, they cried. Well, I didn't cry while I wrote it. It was after I wrote it that it dawned on me that, my son is gone. And it was not difficult. And that book was called Splendid. That's the beginning of it. And in 1994, it won the Christopher Okigbo Prize for Literature. It was my first published book. Winning the prize confirmed for me, because everybody discouraged me from retiring to write. Even Chief Adebo, when he said, because I was on the governing council of the University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, and from time to time I stopped by to visit with him and his wife. He asked one day, what do you do? I said, I write, sir. He said, yes, I know. Well, what do you do? I said, for life, for living. I said, I write, sir. He said, that is uncommon. I've said since then that translate that to mean stupid, because you are not making any money. You left a good job to what? Uncertainty, great uncertainty. Winning the prize meant that, yes, I told myself I could write. I believed in myself enough to retire to write. But winning that prize, it confirmed that it was not a bad decision, you're a writer. For me, it was some kind of confirmation. I think writers everywhere don't get recognition that they should. Only the few that kind of write bestsellers. And really, writing a bestseller doesn't mean your book is the best. It means that somehow what you have written captured the imagination of the public, and so they liked the book and they bought thousands, maybe millions of copies of the book. Those ones, yes, get the recognition and you hear about them, but thousands of other writers are there that are just writing and maybe just getting by. But out here, in Nigeria in particular, you find that writers are not even considered. Writers' works are not recognized because they don't get published. Writers in Nigeria find it very hard to get published. Publishers out here find it hard to sell creative writing. So you can see that the publishers themselves are at a disadvantage. They cannot encourage creative writing because they know they cannot sell. They're in this business to make money, definitely. And the books that sell are books that are used in schools, textbooks, which they can reprint year after year. So that is okay for them. So they are more likely to go for books, even if you write a book as a writer that may become a textbook, they will publish you. But creative work, you don't have too much opportunity to get published. And it's the creative writers that have the problem that we're talking about. We have an Association of Nigerian Authors. I think our association should push us forward more. We have an association called Women Writers of Nigeria. I am, by the grace of God, the pioneer president. When I was president, I think everybody knew about writer. I made sure that we talked about writer from time to time and we did things. I think writers themselves should push themselves forward. Nigerians read. There is a reading culture. There are many magazines out there, and many come out almost every month, and they get read and they get bought. People buy them, people read, but they do not read creative works. Somehow, something must be done to get creative writing, bring it to the attention of the public, like popularize it. Well, it's actually from the pain of just watching, listening to writers come in, read from their works, and yet they're not discouraged. You see them come again. They're not reading from the same book. Another book. They've started something else, and they're reading again, and they're working again. And it's so painful. And I felt, if only they can get published. Then I thought, well, if my father always said, you know, whatever you do in life, make a difference. Like when you've been on this planet Earth, before you leave it, do something that will improve somebody's life or lives of some people. He did some himself. So I thought maybe getting books published, writers' books published, some writers' books published would help. So I thought of starting a foundation. And I thought maybe the people to encourage the most will be young writers. We sent out a call for entries to writers, young writers from ages 11 to 21. And they're to write for children from ages 8 to 12. That age is the age where children have started to read on their own. And it is such a wonderful, exciting thing for them. And if they're able to read books that are imaginative, books that will carry them to worlds that they will just love to stay in and create in, I thought that would be good. So I thought it would be good to get writers to write for that age, 8 to 12, and the foundation promises to publish 6 such stories, imaginative stories, annually. Parents still give their children gifts for their birthdays and other occasions, but they don't buy books. Parents now buy jeans, computer games, all of these things that, well, children like them, but I think they should also include books. I'm not going to say leave those out, but also include books, because books help your child develop their imagination, strengthens the muscles of their imagination. Imagination, for me, is everything. And I'm not the only one saying that. Einstein, one of the greatest scientists of the last century, because it was last century, we now entered a new one, said imagination is more important than knowledge. Without imagination, nothing that has been created by man has been created. You have to think of it first. Imagine it first before you can make it. Our schools should be teaching us not what to think, but how to think. If you know how to think, you will be able to work out various ways of coping with different problems. If this particular solution that you have at least preferred hasn't worked, try another one. Try another one. You try so many until you get one that works. As a matter of fact, you can find several ways of solving the same problem. And that helps your imagination and makes you more creative. So parents should be encouraged to continue to buy books for their children. And I say creative writing because it helps them to develop their imagination. I think we put too much emphasis on teachers. Teachers, really, you have put them in schools to teach. I taught teachers, so I get nervous about people putting everything on the teacher. When you say, oh, they go to school and teachers don't do this and teachers don't do that. Teachers are not supposed to do everything. Parents are supposed to do so much at home. You're supposed to at least do something to your child before the child goes to school. Teach the child so much. As a matter of fact, learning to read should be something you learn at home before you go to school. School should help you improve on it.
May it be when darkness falls, your heart will be true. You walk a lonely road, oh how far you are from home.
time to meet two other young authors. Eunice Adelekon wrote her first story at age 8 and became a published author at age 9. She is currently 12 years old. Eunice is the author of Sophia's Talent. Favor Okike became a published author at age 9 when her storybook, The Poor Widow and Other Stories, was published. She is also 12 years old. Both girls joined us for a brief interview with Bumi Ajayi, the initiator of Child Writers Initiative, which discovered the girls. Welcome to the Channels Book Club.
Thank you.
Now, what drives you to run a publishing firm for children?
It's actually born out of my experience when I was growing up. As a child, I loved to write. I would write anything about anything. But just the way it goes with every other child, they all ended up in the drawers. And one day, not about 4 or 5 years ago, I was checking my stuff. Then I found out that I had a manuscript that I wrote when I just left secondary school. It was actually meant to be a soap. No experience, no formal training. So I just wrote something. I had an idea, I had the inspiration, so I was writing. So I didn't even know where I kept the manuscripts until I found them inside my luggage recently, about a couple of years ago. So I asked myself, how did this manuscript survive? Now, the question came to me. This never got published. It didn't even leave this place. Do you know how many other children are facing the same challenge that we are facing now? When I was young, like I said, I just kept all those things. I wrote them, just kept them in drawers. They gathered dust. So I knew that there would be many children that also had the same challenge. So the expression was, what will you do to help such children who have written stories and don't know what to do with such? So it started from there, and I started thinking on what I could do. After that time, I was really into publishing. I'm a writer, so I've published some of my works. So I said, well, it won't be much of a difficulty for me to publish those children. So I already have the facility on ground. It's just getting them, those children who are interested in writing or who have actually written something and don't know what to do with the manuscript. How do we find them? And that gave birth to the idea of the Children Writers Initiative. Let's use that as a platform to get the children on board and encourage them, not just to discover them, not just to motivate them, but we also want to train them and encourage them by getting their works published. When they see themselves as published authors at such tender ages, they will feel motivated to do something more. And I'm happy that we've been able to do something in that regard. Now we have 5 children published authors.
I have to say it's a very fascinating initiative. What have you observed so far in terms of the kind of talents we have amongst Nigerian children?
The talents are varied. We have children who are so gifted in different areas. Have some of them, well, they love to play football because that's what they see other people doing. Some of them know other forms of sports because that's where they feel they could be encouraged. They've seen role models in that field. But in the area of creative writing, that's where the challenge is. Many of them want to become Chinua Achebe. They want to become Wole Soyinka. They want to become Chimamanda. But they just do not know how to go about it. Because the same challenge I feel, I didn't know how to go into publishing. Now, having started this project, I now found out that there are so many children who are actually writing. I get phone calls every time. Little children. Some will say, I read Sophia's Talent. I want to write. Where are you calling from? I'm calling from Enugu. Other one will say, hello, I read The Poor Widow. I saw the author just by like my age mate. How can I also write? How can I also have my book published? I feel so challenged. So I found that a lot of children, if their talents are properly harnessed, they could actually do wonders, because they do not know what to do with their free time. They just write. They give to their parents. Okay, I have an experience there. A woman called me some time ago and he said, Mr. Ajayi, you see, I'm guilty. My daughter writes a lot, but all the stories are inside the drawer. What can you do to help us? So many calls like that from many parents, even from school authorities. And this really made me realize that we have a lot of work to do. Many children don't know how to, they don't have direction. So if we are not kept busy, they do what other children are doing. They just while away the time and their talents are wasted.
That's very impressive. Very impressive. You have here with us that came to the studio with you, Favor and Eunice. How are you doing? Can I ask you what inspires you to write?
I love reading a lot of novels, so I get my inspiration from there and the ideas from there. I love novels and authors like Karen Kingsbury and others, so I get my ideas from there and decided to start writing my own, especially when the opportunity came for me in my primary school. I tried to submit my entry and was picked.
How about you?
I really like reading novels, and my dad also loved writing, so I was just like, what is he always writing and how come they come about it? And I just said, there's a competition. I was in class and a teacher came and was like, competitions. My mom told me that these competitions aren't real, and it was going almost to the end, like I lost all the people I could even submit it. And my dad just came back, he traveled. So I was like, then he was saying places, like saying his experiences. And I was like, wow, if he can talk like this, then I could put it into writing. So from there, I started wondering about a girl who apparently would have been wasted. And I just wrote it, and I was just like, don't even know if I was just doing or something. I just submitted. Just gave it to my dad to submit. That's all.
And your book is actually about people discovering their talents and doing what they know how to do. Is that correct? So we don't have to lock children up into medicine and law and engineering. I think that's the core of your message in your book, right?
Yes.
And it's titled Sophia's Talent.
Yes.
Finally, can you read something from your book for our viewers? Just a short passage, something interesting.
Mr. Williams was at home watching the live show on television. He did not go to the venue of the dance competition because he did not want his daughter to be a dancer. But he shouted, "Yes, that is my daughter, my beautiful daughter," when Sophia was announced as the winner. Sophia thanked her class teacher, Auntie Deborah, who helped her discover her talent and enrolled her in a dance class. She also thanked her mother and sister for the support. The following day, which was a Saturday, Mr. Williams organized a small party for Sophia to commend and thank her for making the family proud. "I am very sorry, my dear Sophia, that I didn't want you to become a dancer," he says. "But from now on, I shall do everything necessary to help you put your talent to the best use." Auntie Deborah was very happy that she helped Sophia become great. Parents and teachers should join hands in helping the children and pupils of students to put their talents to good use in order for them to be great in life, she said. "Yes, we will," Sophia's parents promised.
Nice. You read very well. Thank you. How about you? Can you read something?
Ojukwu
What's the title of your book?
The Poor Widow and Her
The
Story.
Poor Widow and Her. Okay. All right.
Ojukwu had noticed the poor widow with her 3 children and thought that they could provide him a good means of making money. One night, he and his gang of criminals went to the woman's house and kidnapped her children. During the operation, the woman woke up and saw Ojukwu. Since he did not want any eyewitnesses to his crime, he shot Mama Chisom and left her to die slowly. But unknowing to Ojukwu and his gang, there was another eyewitness, the young farmer who had rescued the woman's son from the trap. He wept bitterly when he saw the shooting of the poor widow and the kidnapping of her children. However, he was determined to bring the culprits to justice. Early in the morning, he went to the king's palace to report that what he had witnessed to the king. The king was very angry. "Are you sure of what you have just told me?" the king asked in disbelief. "Nothing but the truth, your highness," the farmer replied, bowing. The king ordered a manhunt for Ojukwu and members of his gang, giving the villagers a 24-hour ultimatum.
I hope you have enjoyed yourself. Our book of the week is How to Win Friends and Influence People. It is one of the first best-selling self-help books ever published. It was written by Dale Carnegie and was first published in 1936. It has sold over 15 million copies worldwide and is still selling. Get yourself a copy, read it, and let's know what you think about it. We will be happy to have you on any of our social media platforms. Very soon we are introducing Google Hangouts where some of you can join us to have interesting chats with interesting authors and about interesting books. It will be great to get your comments and suggestions on any of our social media platforms so that we can make this show much more enjoyable for you. Please don't forget you can always join us on the channel's book club during our regular broadcasting days, anywhere you are in the world. You can go to m.channelstv.com and follow us real time on those days. Until next week, my name is Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.